Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk, Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Unity of Garden Park, New Thought Philadelphia, the Sunshine Cathedral, Unity of Savannah, and the Ohm Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network. And now, let's experience New Thought Philadelphia.
It's February, beginning of February. It's Love Month, because it's the month that has Valentine's Day in it. I mean, there's other stuff in it as well. It has the Grammys. It has the Super Bowl. So there's lots of stuff to love or to push against. But it brings to mind love. The talk today is called Unconditional. And I want to remind you right off the top, because it's Love Month, that God loves you unconditionally. God loves you unconditionally. And that's a big deal. If you look up the definition of unconditional, it is absolute, total, and free from any limitations, restrictions, or requirements. That's some powerful love. Absolute, total, and free from any limitations, restrictions, or requirements. Unconditional love would include acceptance. So if we're unconditionally loving somebody, we're going to embrace their flaws and imperfections without judgment. It's no expectations. Offering affection, being that loving presence without needing anything in return. It's about safety and trust, providing an environment where that which we are loving, that whom we are loving, can feel secure, like they would in a familial bond, and perhaps even better than that. And it's consistency. Unconditional love doesn't have any variability to it. It's maintaining that connection regardless of the circumstances. So unconditional love is a big deal. And there may be a time in your life where you've felt the unconditional love of a parent or grandparent, a beloved. And sometimes, even in the most loving and connected relationships, there are moments where there's some exasperation or frustration or judgment or expectation, and it can get in the way of that. Unconditional love isn't the only kind of unconditional there is. Unconditional support is when you believe in someone or something regardless of how it's unfolding or what their choices are. Unconditional support. That's big. That's big. The other time that the word unconditional gets used is an unconditional surrender. And an unconditional surrender, where there's a battle or a fight or a conflict going on, the unconditional surrender is where there are no guarantees or promises or commitments from the party that is accepting the surrender, and no expectations whatsoever on behalf of the party that is offering that unconditional surrender. And it doesn't happen very often. It only happens if the alternative is going to be complete and utter annihilation or destruction. So somebody's going to surrender rather than lose all of that. So unconditional is a really powerful word. Unconditional is there's no room for maneuvering in that. When we were doing the technology check earlier this morning, I asked if anybody knew how many times Ernest Holmes used the word unconditional in the Science of Mind textbook, which is 900 pages long or some such. And it turns out it's in there once. There is only one mention of the word unconditional. And it's where Ernest Holmes is explaining the prayer of faith from James in the New Testament, because he was crediting Jesus with it. And Jesus is often, when you look for examples of unconditional love, it's families and Jesus. And even Jesus had his moments. There's this part where Jesus curses the fig tree. And people try to explain, he was trying to make a point about how the church was not bearing fruit the way that it was supposed to. He still got mad. So, unconditional is a big deal. And what would unconditional love look like for you, to you? What would it look like as you? If unconditional love were coming from you for someone or something, what would that feel like? Take a second now just to connect with that feeling. Feel that feeling of unconditional love. Letting go of all of the judgments, all of the expectations, and just letting the love be all that there is. Turn it around. What would it feel like for that unconditional love for you, coming from the outside, knowing that you are so completely loved, that there's nothing that you can do, that there's no judgment, no expectation, simply, purely love. Could you let go of all judgment? And if you could, for how long? Is there something that could come along that would get you back into that feeling? Yeah, okay. I love you, but. One of my little sayings is that if you say, I love you unconditionally because, you've missed the point. There's not a because. If there's a because, then there's a reason, and it's not unconditional. It becomes conditional. And it's not like conditional love. Interaction love is necessarily bad. There are some times when I'll do something that's loving, and it will be experienced and land on the person who I'm loving as being unloving. You know, I love my dog, and sometimes I get to discipline him, and I still love him, but he's not necessarily happy about it. So that bar is set pretty high for unconditional love. And I start off the top by reminding you that God loves you unconditionally. And that is an absolute truth. God loves you unconditionally. And that is a really big deal, because we have said that God is omniscient and omnipotent. Omniscient, knows everything. There is nothing that you're going to hide from God. There's no secret that you're going to keep to make sure that God continues to love you, and God's going to love you anyway. Omnipotent, all-powerful. God creates everything and can create everything and anything. And that omnipotent presence loves you unconditionally. God is omnipatient. Will wait as long as you need. Give you as much time and as much latitude as you need. God is omniforgiving. And God is omni-allowing. No matter what you do, God loves you. And the easiest way I can explain that is by approaching it from the back. Because there are lots of stories about a vengeful God, or an angry God, or a judgmental God. You know, the one on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, looking down from the clouds, pointing, making things happen, deciding who's naughty and who's nice. That's not unconditional. If I am required to behave in a particular way, to believe a particular thing, to do something specifically to please God, and if I don't, it will displease God, that's not unconditional love. And if you take that from the back, if I can do something, or say something, or think something, or believe something that's going to anger God, and I can decide whether or not to do that, and I can make the choice, I'm going to say or do something that's going to anger God, then who's in charge of that relationship? If I can decide when God's going to get angry that God's not in charge of that relationship, then what kind of God is that? See above. Omniscient, omnipotent, omnipatient, omniforgiving, omni-allowing. We are not in charge of our relationship with God. God loves us no matter what. There is, and here's the spiritual phrase that you can write down. You cannot piss off God. You can't do it. You can with somebody else who you love unconditionally. There's something that could happen. There's something that could happen or come along that would give a little ripple in that relationship. And nothing with the divine. There is an intimate, loving relationship, that close connection that we have with the infinite. God loves you. God loves you regardless of what you do, what you say, how you look, what your attitude or perspective is. If you've just done something that you believe to be heinous, God loves you. If you've just done the most wonderful thing in the world, God still loves you exactly the same way. Exactly as much. And we can turn that one around backwards as well. God loves you. Yes, we'll accept that that's true. And then you are loved. You are loved by God. You are so lovable that regardless of what you do, where you are, what you've been up to, God loves you. You are loved. You are lovable. And you are completely worthy of all that love. And that's what I would love to have you remember as we go into Love Month. You are loved. God loves you unconditionally. And I'm joining in. So it is.